Hello, and welcome to Ages and Stages of Development in Kids and Learning while Teaching Agriculture. I'm Heather Castle with Kids Agriculture Unboxed and the Agriculture Unboxed shop. And my goal is to help you with some teaching tips of how to teach your kids or students or other group members in a way that will be engaging and encouraging to them to learn more about agriculture education. So we are going to go ahead and get started. So let me switch screen. All right. So how our goal is to engage kids in agriculture at different developmental stages. And we're going to go through those different developmental stages so that we understand how children develop and create effective and engaging agriculture education experiences for them at different age levels. There's nothing more frustrating than when we are in a 4-H group, for example, and we have kids anywhere from age 5 to 18, and we need to figure out different methods and ways to be able to teach that group. I've experienced that with homeschool groups and other groups too, where we have a huge variety of different stages of development, and we need to understand what the different development is so that we can engage and encourage in activities to try to reach the scope of kids and to reach them in a safe manner. And if they are learning properly, then they're going to be more engaged. They're going to be more apt to continue on learning in agriculture. And again, one of the most important things is having activities that are for their developmental age that are safe for them as well. Make sure that we are not teaching them outside their means. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So, what are those ages and stages that we see that we need to know about to create those effective teaching experiences? So, our first one we're going to talk about is ages 5 through 7, and that's going to be our early learners. Ages 8 to 10, more of our beginner learners. And then we have ages 11 to 13, our intermediate learners. And then ages 14 to 18, our advanced learners. And we're going to learn about some of their social, cognitive, and motor skill development at each of these different ages and how we can adapt that to different lessons for them. So our first group is our ages 5 to 7, which is our early learners. And they are that group that are still curious. They're hands-on learners. They like to get dirty. They're developing their fine motor skills. And they are asking lots of questions, and they are willing to learn different things and being introduced to a wide range of different subjects. So the best teaching methods for this particular group is, of course, simple interactive lessons and activities that involve storytelling and some kind of sensory experience. So, what are some of those things that we can be teaching them? So, planting, caring for seeds. So, just a simple setup with a pot, soil, and a seed, simple, engaging, where they can water it and watch it every day to see if it's growing, what it needs water wise, and learn those different things. Farm animal recognition. Of course, they know the different farm animals, but they are learning more about what each of those animals are. They're learning the basic names of that animal, for instance, boar, sow, piglet. Basic gardening tasks like watering, pulling weeds. They'd like to be out there with you and mimicking the things that you're doing. Farm themed story time. So all those wonderful agriculture themes books that are out there for that age. There's so many of them for this age group. And as I was doing our learning kits previously, it was so harder to find those books for 9 to 11-year-olds, but there's plenty for this 5 to 7 age group. Sensory bins with soil, grains, and farm toys. So they still like to get out the farm tractors, the barn scene, and they like to make their own farms. They still like to do all those things. Sensory means the bins, meaning getting their hands in the soil, feeling in them, feeling the different grains, those tactile things as well. So, what are some safety considerations for ages 5 to 7? So, we got to make sure that we're using child friendly tools with no sharp edges, right? We're going to supervise them more closely around animals and soil and begin to teach them, how to respect that animal. Teach basic hygiene, make sure that they're washing hands after handling soil, animals, whatever it might be. And then we're going to go on to our um, next group, which is our ages 8 to 10. And this is our age group where they're beginning to explore and experiment, beginning learners in agriculture, that they're going to ask more complex questions and they still enjoy those hands-on experiments, that anything that we can give them hands-on as well. So the best teaching methods for kids ages 8 to 10 would be those that um, have more step by step processes. They can follow these step by step processes more than the age group that we just finished with. And we can introduce them to more advanced or more simple concepts, talking about external anatomy, those simple processes, those types of things. So, engaging activities for an 8 to 10-year-old would be learning more about composting basics. And we're talking the basics that you need, the green stuff, the brown stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Gardening, journaling, farm to table activities. So, any of those making butter or ice cream or any of those activities there, they enjoy. Basic livestock care, when to feed them, the brushing, the grooming, those type of activities. Weather and crop studies is another example of an engaging activity we can do for this age group, where we're introducing how weather and seasons affect crops and animals. Safety considerations for ages 8 to 10. So again, we're teaching proper hygiene after handling animals and soil and other equipment, using appropriately sized tools, equipment, tractors, those types of things for that age. Supervise interactions with farm animals. They are more willing to do things on their own, but we still need to be there with them to help them with the animals, supervise and help them learn those behavioral things that we are starting to get into with those animals. Ages 11 to 13 are our independent thinkers. So these intermediate learners are developing abstract thinking, and they are ready for more guided activities. So they're going to benefit from those guided research and guided projects that they can do more on their own, and hands-on projects with a clear goal. So they're getting to be a little bit more independent, but they still need a goal or a clear path of what they're supposed to be doing in their thinking and in those areas. So the best teaching methods are going to be research-based activities and real-world applications. And what does research-based activities and real-world applications mean? So it means that we're engaging them into more of the science of agriculture. We're looking more into the internal systems. We're looking into the science of things. So soil science and its impact on plant growth. What are those plant needs, and how does that soil and this provide those things for the plant? Pollination studies. How does the bees affect the pollination of crops, and what happens if those bees suddenly get killed by a frost and we lose half of them? How does that affect our pollination? Livestock nutrition. What are those nutrient groups? How different animals eat and why? So ruminants versus non-ruminants, those type of things. Farm economics introduction. So we're learning them to the basic principles of budgeting and finances and records and record keeping, and then talking more about sustainable agriculture practices. And these are all just some examples. There's a whole wide range, but we're just trying to see what each of those development ages are beginning to see as they begin to learn from a beginner to an intermediate to advanced. So the sustainable agricultural practices are How's the environment, how does agriculture and environment work together? What does that water cycle or carbon cycle or nitrogen cycle look like? Those type of things are part of that thinking. So what are some safety considerations for this age group? Again, we're going to make sure we have supervise the tool usage in experiments, teach proper animal handling techniques. So we're getting more in depth of how to handle animals, how to look at what they are, how their behavior affects of what's going to happen next. Having pens and things set up to help with those areas. So you're going to encourage protective gear when handling chemicals or fertilizers or anything. So we're getting them more used to using those tools because they're getting more and more involved in the practices with the chemicals or bug sprays and things like that. Ages 14 to 18 will be our advanced learners and problem solvers. So, of course, they are going to be able to analyze complex issues, conduct their own research. And when I say research, that means looking in more depth and looking on how to do things themselves. That's what we mean by the research. So take not that they're going to form their hypothesis and do their own scientific experiments, which they could, but we're talking more of that area where they are able to look things up and learn things themselves and learn the different practices as well. Take leadership roles is another example of an advanced learner. Those 14 to 18-year-olds and those problem solvers, they like real world problem solving. They like those advanced research projects or projects that they need to set up and gain experience from, because they're going to need that real life experience at this point. So what are some engaging activities for 14 to 18-year-old? And again, these are just examples of things that to get you thinking about different ways that we can be teaching them. So agricultural policy debates. So talking and discussing about things that are happening in the world and how that affects farming, agriculture in the world around us. Livestock genetic studies, meaning just learning more about animal breeding, genetic selection, those type of things. Farm business planning, anything from a mock business, farm business to budgeting and marketing type things, from getting more involved in that. Precision agriculture, where we're incorporating more of the agri-technology with GPS and GIS and more modern farming techniques. Agri-tech innovation projects, again, integrating and investigating how technology is transforming agriculture and learning about all those things. So we've learned the basics up to this point. Now we're taking those to a more advanced level. So safety considerations for ages 14 to 18, making sure that they have proper training on handling farm equipment. Make sure we're reminding them to take those precautions, that don't get in a hurry and do it correctly. Use of protective gear for tools and chemicals. Teach risk assessment and emergency response procedures. So we're teaching those things in a real life situation. So why do these age appropriate lessons matter? Because by understanding these different learning stages, we can create those agriculture lessons and activities that are appropriate and aligned with their cognitive, physical, and social development, so that they are safe, are learning at the level that they should. They're more apt to succeed. They're not going beyond their abilities, or they're not going so far below their abilities that they get bored. But these just help us realize that there's activities that we can give to these kids that are more of their age development range, and be able to reach that more wider range of kids that we see in our clubs and classrooms and our families, and wider age ranges there. So again, why young learners thrive with hands-on activities. Older students engage best through inquiry-based learning and real-world applications. Still hands-on, but we're taking it to a whole nother level. And again, if we're keeping tasks within each child's ability, we're ensuring that they're safe, and it's going to build the confidence in their skills as well. So that is a short lesson about the different ages and stages that we can consider in agriculture education and how to apply those and start thinking beyond what we're doing with our agriculture education. I do have a free guide for you that you can get. It has 50 plus ideas for livestock learning at the different age levels that we talk about here. I concentrate more on the 9 to 18 range. So we have the beginner, intermediate, advanced learning. So we have lessons and ideas for each of those, and how to incorporate the 4 styles of learning into lessons too. And we have resources on that as well. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you later.